Let's talk about how to give a great introduction at the start of your interview. What's up guys, it's Mike from Job Ready English, here with another video to help you pass your interview and get a job in the UK. Today I wanted to talk to you about a personal introduction. Tell me about yourself, how to introduce yourself in an interview. This is something, actually the first thing that we tend to work with people when we take them through the entire process of helping them to get a job. We call it a personal introduction. So what you want to think about is when you're introducing yourself, what is the best structure to follow? How long should you talk? What is the content that you should include? And what are the things that you should not do? So I'm gonna run you through this. This is something that I've done hundreds of times with different clients and listened to like thousands of personal introductions. So I'm really familiar with the process. And don't forget, if you want the free worksheet that goes with this so you can do it yourself and write it out, you can check that out in the description down below. So first of all, with a personal introduction, what's the structures that you should have? Which should be, what are you doing now? What did you do before? What would you like to do in the future? Work experience, extracurricular, volunteering, and finally, skills, interests, and hobbies. So you've roughly got 6 sections. You want it to be about 2 minutes. If you're wondering when you write out your personal introduction, how many words that should be, it's about 200 to 300 words. Most people speak at roughly about 100 to 125 words per minute. You'll find that if you get faster than that, you'll start to gasp a little bit or find it sort of difficult to get your breath or almost feel like you're tripping over your words as you get on later down in the section. 2 minutes is kind of a good amount of time. Sometimes you might need to chop it down to 90 seconds, but we want to keep that as brief as possible. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how you should present yourself, what you should say, how you should be, and what you're kind of looking for at the end result at the end of the video. In terms of the content, when you're writing it out, so for example, the first section would be, who are you and what are you doing now? Hi, my name's Mike and I'm currently studying a bachelor's degree in mathematics at Warwick University. That's the present. What have you done? This is the past. Now this varies a little bit. It's a little bit different between graduates and professionals, but I tend to say, what have you been doing for the past 3 years? So it could be, previously I studied my A-levels at XYZ school where I got ABC grades, done. Or you could say, previously I was a general manager at a large service department in a multinational corporation. That's the past. Why are we doing this? Because it sets context. Very quickly, we tell you this is what I'm doing now and this is what I've done. And then we talk about what do you want to do in the future. So you might say, I want to be a consulting graduate at Boston Consulting Group because I believe that this is a great place for me to grow my skills. I have the quantitative and qualitative skills, the ability to analyze data, to use Excel and Python to help our clients to reach the best conclusions and make the best decisions. For example. Now this is going to change based upon the company. This is also the section that you can drop. And don't forget, if you're not sure about any of those parts, check out the free handout in the description below, which is going to be super helpful for you. But it's a nice little thing to have. And I would tend to sort of base it upon the industry that you're applying to. That tends to be really useful. Maybe not so much for the company, you might have a dream company. Don't overcomplicate it. Next, you're going to talk about your work experience. A really important thing with work experience that a lot of people forget is try to quantify things. So for example, give results. If you did customer service, how many customers did you serve? If you did sales, how much did you sell? If you wrote reports, how many reports did you write? You know, there are many different things, but try to quantify them. The reason why we quantify things, or i.e. give them a number or a piece of data, is because the mind is visual. So if somebody says to you, oh, I've just been out on a walk, you'd say, oh, where did you go? And they'd say, oh, I've gone to the shop. Now you know that walk's 5 minutes, it's not particularly long. If they said to you, oh, well, I walked to the pier, which is 3 miles away, you go, wow, that was a long walk. It creates a image in the mind so somebody can have a reference point based upon their own experience. So we try to quantify things. You don't need to go into acres of detail. It's good if you can pick out relevant skills that you know are going to be used in the job that you're applying for, whether they're soft skills like interpersonal, teamwork, leadership, and so on and so forth, or also hard skills. You might be going for a job where you really need those types of technical skills. So it could be I'm really good at coding in C++, or I'm really good at Adobe Photoshop or Dreamweaver, or whatever it is, if there are applicable technical skills, because of course we're talking this in a general way. After that, you've got extracurriculars and voluntary activities. This is particularly relevant if you don't have any work experience. So it could be societies that you've been part of, volunteering that you've done, anything that basically constitutes something above and beyond your studies, whether you've been paid or not paid in terms of work experience, extracurriculars. It just gives me an idea, well, what do you do when you're not, when you're not in your free time and when you're not studying? What else do you do? And if you're watching this like, oh, I don't really do anything, you might want to think about doing something. Not judging, just saying. And then finally, we have the skills and interests and also the hobbies. A lot of times people will say to me, well, people that they don't want to know about my hobbies. Well, true. I mean, I'm not asking you to give me a 3-minute monologue about why you like model boats. But the point is that it just helps us to get a really quick snapshot of you, of who you are, something that you like. You might like poetry, you might like violins, you might like grenade launchers, I don't know. But when you give me some insight, then it helps me to learn a little bit more about you. It gives me a talking point if I want to expand on something. And it's an opportunity to reveal a bit more about yourself instead of this very clinical presentation of who you are. So finally, how should you present it? How should you practice it? What should you do? How fast should you speak? All those types of things. The first thing I want to make really clear about personal introduction is that practice makes perfect. Personal introductions, tell me about yourself, introduce yourself at an interview, is the first thing that I always, if you're watching this video and you're like, oh, I don't really know what to do, where should I start? Personal introduction is the best place to start. Why? Because you learn to sell yourself. You learn to essentially speak about who you are, to present yourself in a believable way, and also make yourself a convincing candidate for somebody that's speaking to you. It also gives you the opportunity to learn to communicate in a particular way, because we're not used to doing that. If someone says introduce yourself, be like, hi, I'm Steve, I like fish, I don't know. But you're not going to go and tell a stranger, the story of your life, are you? Whereas a personal introduction is a really compressed history of who you are. Practice does make perfect, don't drive yourself nuts. What I tend to say is, do it once a day. As soon as possible, you want to move away from your script. So you could have a script, first of all, which you read out, then you shorten it down to bullet points or some sort of card, and then eventually you can just, do it maybe when you go to a particular place. You could have it stuck on the fridge, on your mirror, just have it somewhere where you can have a really easy trigger to practice once or twice a day. To be frankly honest, after you've done it about 9 or 10 times, it tends to stick. There's no science behind that. That's just my kind of experience. And remember, it's not about the quantity of practice. It's about the quality of the practice. So if you can record yourself and watch yourself back, that's really useful. Not a lot of people like doing it, but you find that when you self-assess, you will automatically correct yourself, because you'll notice yourself doing things and saying things and be like, ooh, that wasn't quite right. I shouldn't have done that. So that's a really good thing for you to do. And little and often is good, because ultimately it's boring. It's boring just sitting there and repeating yourself over and over again. When you're presenting information, you just kind of want to look upbeat. You want to look interested and interesting and like you're enjoying doing this thing, instead of being like, oh, and then I did this. A lot of particularly international students complain about sounding very robotic. That's generally because you haven't practiced enough. So you're still trying to remember your script and then recite that script back to your audience. And what you should hopefully be able to do by the end is just kind of say it off the top of your head. And bearing in mind, you're never going to be 100% the same every time. There will be some deviation from the script. There is going to be some things that you're going to leave out. But if you feel that you can really reel it off the cuff, that's going to be a massive confidence boost for you. Particularly at the start of the interview, you get momentum, you get confidence, and you can grow from there. Though having said that, it's reasonably rare for most interviews that will be the first question. Generally the question is going to be like, why do you want to work for this company? Why do you want to do this role? But a personal introduction is a great tool to have in your toolbox. So don't forget, if you like this video, like and subscribe. Make sure that you download the free worksheet, do your own personal introduction, and drop me a comment down below and let me know or other videos you'd like us to do. Bye.